I'll go ahead and call us to order. Let me read the emergency evacuation procedures before we begin. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm may sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you've reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles. With that said, we'll move to the minutes. We have the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes that you've received in your packets?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Just so you know, John is not here tonight. His mother is in the hospital in intensive care, so John will not be joining us tonight, and we ran Roger off. So Doug is on the plate for covering all the bases tonight. So site plan for expansion of carport at 2520 South Carver Road. Excuse me. Public input on items not on the agenda. No, on the agenda. Okay, you want me to walk out and come back in? Public input on items on the agenda. Anyone wish to speak to items on the agenda? There being none, public input is closed. Now, Doug, site plan, expansion of carport at 2520 South Carver Road.
Okay, I just want to let everybody know that last Thursday night, John was named the interim building commissioner in Roger's absence and the absence of whoever replaces him. So that's why we're doing the site plans. This site plan is for the addition of a carport along the front and side of a commercial structure located at 2520 South Carver Road. You might know the building. It's Smoky Mountain Traders. The proposed addition has received a variance from the Blount County BZA for the front setback requirement along West Lamar Alexander Parkway and South Carver Road. The structure will project out 18 feet from the existing building and will be used to cover classic cars that are for sale at the facility. The addition will cover an area that is already used for parking and will not create any increase in the impervious surface area. The site plan does not include any additional lighting. This will be an open-air addition that will be in compliance with section 7.15 of the zoning regulations. If approved, a building permit will be required prior to construction.
Any questions?
Not really a question, but if it's just an open awning, why does it got to come before us?
Because it's over 30 inches off the ground.
Okay. I motion to approve. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Site plan is approved as presented.
Thank you.
Final plats, major subdivisions, Lonnie Davis property off of Morganton Road by Lonnie and Christina Davis. Doug?
Yeah, this is a final plat. There's 2 lots served off a common driveway easement and the remainder greater than 5 acres. This plat came to the Planning Commission as a preliminary and was approved in March of 2016. The bulk of the improvements have been made at this time. The common driveway is in, utilities are in. The outstanding items to be completed are on page 2. Number 1 is a site distance easement on the plat. I'm going to actually remove that from the outstanding items. I just wanted to read it in and then take it off. Number 2, signature plats, including electric, prior to releasing the final plats. 3, supply a copy of a maintenance agreement for staff to review, and we still haven't got that. And then a $40 per lot platting fee.
Any questions or comments? Do I have a motion? I got two motions to approve. Do I need a second? Second, okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, we have a motion to approve subject to outstanding items and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Track 7 and 8, Gray Ridge Estate by Emmeline Shepherd.
Yeah, there are 2 lots along North Old Gray Ridge Road and a remainder greater than 5 acres. Staff has reviewed the plat. The outstanding items to be completed are on page 4. And this is a preliminary and final plat, so if you approve it, they'll have to complete this before we will sign the final plat. Number 1, the entire length of the front of the property shall be cleared of vegetation and fencing so staff can reevaluate the site distance. And then driveway restrictions will be added to the final plat. If they're not necessary, they won't be, but I have a feeling they will be. Number 2, signature plats including Environmental Health Department certification and a $20 per lot platting fee.
Any questions or comments? This is a preliminary and a final, subject to completion of the outstanding items. Bruce?
Just a quick question. On the last one, it was 2 lots and it was $40 per lot. Can you tell me just why that was on the last one?
Because that's a major plat because of the common driveway.
Okay.
Does everybody understand my answer? Yeah. Okay.
Do I have a motion? We have a motion and a second to approve plat, the preliminary and the final, subject to completion of outstanding items. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Ronald Blair property by Ronald and Judy Blair off of Bob Thompson Road.
Now this is 2 lots off of an existing common driveway easement. There's a variance request to the width of the common driveway easement. I'll explain that first. If you look at the plat, the first portion of the easement is actually only 20 feet wide, and the subdivision regulations require 25 feet wide as a minimum standard. Since it's existing and across additional lot owners, we can't make that any wider. But we can make it across Mr. Blair's property to the lot 1 he's creating on his property. That will be 25 in standard. So the variance is for this section down to 20 feet. The Planning Commission has granted this same variance in the past down to 16 feet when it was existing situation, and you could actually still pass 2 cars, and the driveway's is in good shape, so there's plenty of room for that. Back to the staff recommendation. I do want to read a little bit more of this before I get to the outstanding items to be completed so you understand it. Planning staff will supply the following form to the proponent in order to seek signatures of the other owners and their acknowledgement that they are aware of the 4-lot limitation off the common driveway, which may not allow them to redivide their property in the future. And you see that on page 5. And I supplied that to the surveyor today, but I'll get you guys a copy. I didn't know you guys were going to be here tonight. So basically the other owners along the driveway are, obviously the Blairs are owners, the Englands own a piece of the property, the Copelands and the Garretts. They basically have to acknowledge that they accept the fact that this is going to be the last lot on the driveway. If they disagree, then we'll bring the plat back to the Planning Commission and let you decide based on a first come, first served basis, which you've done every single time if the Blairs would get that last division. One of the other properties actually still has road frontage, and it's questionable if the other 2 could even be redivided because of the size, but we have to include them. That's our standard operating procedure. So with that said, I'm going to read the outstanding items to be completed. Number 1, the consideration of the variance request to the Planning Commission, or by the Planning Commission, excuse me. And number 2 is the acknowledgement form by the other owners along the easement. If any other owners disagree with the Blair request, the item will come back to the Planning Commission for first come, first served consideration. Driveway restrictions will be added to the final plat. And I don't remember what those are. Number 3, signature plats, including environmental health department certification, a common driveway note placed on the final plat, and a $20 per lot platting fee.
Any questions, comments? Commissioner French?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Doug, there at Bob Thompson Road, those are two separate plats there, the two Copeland plats?
Yeah, I mean, they're two separate lots of record,
Okay,
yes.
and the first one has access to a county road, it looks like.
Yeah,
Is that right?
I'm actually saying the second one has that little point. It's indeterminate where the end of the county road is.
Yeah.
I went out there with the highway department, we measured it. Back about 12 years ago, the county went up there and extended the pavement and made that turnaround into Peggy Copeland's property because there was a handicapped person up there and they had to get a bus, is that right? If my history's correct. And so, at the time they marked the road at like, I can't remember, it's like 1,330 feet
So
from 6 Mile Road. So, if you measure, I went up there with the highway department and I took a wheel and hung it out the window, and I can tell you 1,300 feet later, your arm's pretty sore. But when we didn't get to the end of the cul-de-sac or the turnaround. We were actually about in the middle of it.
Okay.
But the rest of it's paved, and the county maintains both of those paved sections all the way to the end. So I think the number was off a little bit.
So
But-
both those lots have access to the Bob Thompson Road?
Yeah, but the one, this one in the corner is only served by the easement because the property is just a point. It just goes down to a point to the county road. You see what I'm talking about? Can you show them that,
Yes.
Andy?
Yeah.
Okay. So theoretically, you couldn't access it at a point.
Okay. That's my question, because I was questioning whether that's the fourth lot or not, since it has access to that road.
Well, she has more road frontage and
Yeah.
could cut a lot further up on top on the easement only.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I say anything?
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
if you come to the microphone.
Peggy Copeland on the right, when you look at when you first enter, you can see the cul-de-sac where it's dark. Peggy Copeland, her driveway comes around to the front and goes into the right of her property. And then Richard Croft's, you can see those intermittent lines that comes off the end, then they stop, they come across Peggy Copeland's there. That's his driveway. So neither one of those use the driveway that we put in. That might clarify that a little bit.
Right, but her property has access further up on the easement, so theoretically she could put another driveway in up there.
Any further questions? All right, motion to approve the variance and completion of the other outstanding items. And we have a second. All right, we have a motion to approve the variance and approval subject to completion of outstanding items. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
If you give me just a second, Mr. Chairman, if you guys want to call us or come see me, if you want to call or come see me in my office tomorrow, I'll explain all this and we'll get you the form.
Okay.
Okay? All right, have a good night.
Miscellaneous items, Lot 5 and 6 of the Max Hill property by Max and Janice Hill off of Blockhouse Road, 2 lots.
Yeah, there are 2 lots served off of a shared common driveway easement and a remainder greater than 5 acres with county road frontage, and a variance request of minimum lot size for Lot 5. Lot 5 and 6 of the Max Hill property was approved by the Planning Commission at the February 2016 regular meeting. One of the conditions of plat approval at that time was Environmental Health Department approval of the lots as they were drawn. If you'll notice in your packet, I've supplied the previously approved plat, and I think we should take a look at that together. And that'll be miscellaneous request 1A. And you'll see, if you'll flip it over to 1B, you'll see a little, almost a rectangular section that's been left as part of Lot 6, making Lot 5 smaller than the 30,000 square feet. And that's what requires the variance. Staff isn't opposed to the variance request. The reason being, the Environmental Health Department went out there and did their field work, and they found out that the septic field was actually in the ground for Lot 6, where that unit is, where that home is. It comes all the way back there. So they couldn't use it anyway. And they have confirmed that there's other adequate reserve area on Lot 5. Now, these lots were designed back in like 1980 and platted this, the way you see on 1B.
Did you say the staff was opposed to it?
No, I'm sorry, I said not opposed.
Okay.
If you remember, we did a Lot 4, that Lot 4 you see, we did that with a variance request of lot size. And all these other lots, they were platted back in like 1980 by Max Hill, and then they built houses on it, but they never took the plat to the Planning Commission. And back then, the lot size wasn't 30,000 square feet. So they did everything right. You know, they put all the houses in, they got septic permits at the time, they didn't require building permits, and they did everything that they had to do at the time. And so later on, when they came back, you know, 30-some years later to divide it, you know, it doesn't mesh up with our current rules, so they're trying to make it fit the best that they can. Gary said it'll work this way, so I just wanted to be real clear about that. So I'm going to go to the outstanding items to be completed on the bottom.
Doug, before you do that, so miscellaneous request 1B is
the
plat.
request.
That's
Yeah.
the plat we're approving. Okay,
Yes, sir.
go ahead.
And I'll answer any questions once I read these. Number 1, consideration of the variance request by the Planning Commission. Number 2, Environmental Health Department certification on the final plat. And number 3, final inspection of muddy gravel section of the driveway. And these were instructions: regrade with crown and add stone to the muddy area. I've previously inspected and reported that the improvements have been made, and I think even if they deteriorated a little bit, as of now, they were good at the time, so I'm going to leave that alone.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Any questions or comments? All right, we have a motion to approve, giving approval of the variance and requiring completion of outstanding items. Do I have a second? Any further questions? Comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Cooper, Freeman, and Lang properties off of Mint Road.
Okay. There are 3 lots with lot line adjustments. There are 2 plats attached. I'll explain them if you need me to. One of them is the replat of lots 1 and 2 of the Randy Freeman property. And then the second one is a lot line adjustment between Randy Freeman and Gary Lang. The reason they come to the Planning Commission because there's 3 properties involved in lot 2. So this is essentially what's happening on one of them. The Stephen Cooper property, lot 1R, is to include a portion of the Randy Freeman property, lot 2. And the other one is a lot line adjustment between Randy Freeman, which is lot 2, and Gary Lang, lot 4 of the Cure de Lashman property. And there's a note on here: the Environmental Health Department will need to review both plats. I think that is wrong. Review both plats, and the Freeman property is being reduced in size on both. They need to, the Environmental Health Department needs to confirm or acknowledge that the reduced lots still have capacity for duplication. That's what I'm trying to say. If you look at, let me see which one makes more sense to look at. If you look at miscellaneous request 2A, you'll see the Stephen Cooper property is getting quite a bit bigger. And there's Mr. Cooper operates a garage there now. It's actually a business, and they work on vehicles. They're taking a big structure, a big barn structure, off of Lot 2R and adding it to Mr. Cooper's property. Now, that is a non-conforming use. It existed before zoning, and state law in the state of Tennessee says that for non-conforming uses, you cannot make them larger in size. Thus by expanding your business, by expanding property. This was explained to Mr. Cooper. He had a long conversation with Mr. Lamb, and Mr. Lamb requested from Mr. Cooper that he put something in writing stating what his intent of the use of that building was. And I have that somewhere here in my file. John wanted me to read this into the record so it's clear that he's not using it for his business. It says, Mr. Lamb, I, Stephen T. Cooper, will not be using the building at 4342 Mint Road for business purposes. It will be used for storage and personal use only, never to be used as a commercial building. Signed, Stephen T. Cooper. So, excuse me?
From 2A to 2B or from 2B to 2A?
It's going,
What's the final, what do they want to do, 2A or 2B?
no, it's 2R and 1R.
Which miscellaneous request do
They're both being, no. They're wanting to approve both of them at the same time. Both plats are part of the request. There's two plats.
what happened to do that?
All right, take them apart and set them side by side.
I'm totally confused too, so
There's,
I don't understand.
take them apart and put them side by side. Okay. Look at 2B. Look at 2B. 2B. All right, there's a lot 2 in the middle. If you look across at miscellaneous request 2A, you'll see there's a line cut there, and the building on the back is now being added to the tract next door. The tract to the left is now getting the building. So that's one thing that's occurring. The next thing that is occurring, if you look at request 2A, let's see which one shows it. Hold on.
Something not right.
No, it's right. That little portion that says this area was created by a lot line adjustment, there's another little section that was already done by a lot line adjustment. They're showing it for clarification purposes. Then if we go back to 2B, the second part of this, part of lot 2 is being given to Gary Lang. So lot 2 is getting smaller 2 different ways.
All right, so. Yeah, all right, if you go to 2B, let me see if I can restate it in a way that we understand, or see if I'm clear. If we look at miscellaneous request 2B, the dotted triangle is being taken out of lot 2. We're looking at miscellaneous request 2B. You have a dotted triangle. All right, and that's being, so that little dotted triangle is being transferred to the property owner that is to the right, Gary Lang. And then the second page, 2A, now shows the large barn that was on 2 being incorporated into lot 1R. So we're doing a lot adjustments to both of them.
You're doing 2 adjustments, but it involves 3 properties. And they have to be done simultaneously.
Let me try to say it again. In the first move, we're going to make lot 2 larger and take
No,
away.
we're making it smaller, but we're taking away a piece of lot 2.
What is existing now?
Neither one.
None of it's existing, so we don't see the existing.
If you take, right now, Lot 2 includes the triangle.
We don't have a picture of what it is today.
Well, yeah, it's typically, they don't show what it is, they show what the proposal is on every plat.
I understand now.
Okay, we all on the
It's
same?
it's all here.
Could
We're
they,
all on the same page now? All right. Commissioner
could they have
McCall.
not done 2B on 2A without going with this extra plat? Because, I mean, I do these things all the time, and 2B confuses me when I look at both of them together.
They'll be fine once they're both recorded
I
together.
know,
That was,
well, then this one should be recorded, 2B should record it first before 2A.
well, as long as they, yeah, that's fine.
How many square feet left the 2R at the end of all this?
1.1 acres. That's in a note there in the middle of the map there.
1.1, yep.
So it's still greater than a minimum, significantly larger than the minimum lot. Commissioner McClellan, you got additional comments?
It's gonna be confusing. Some title attorney's gonna go have a nightmare on this, but anyway, 2B needs to be recorded before 2A.
It would have to be, wouldn't it?
Should be, I mean, but they walk them in at the same time and hand them to them, I don't know.
I understand Bruce's, the thing is, there's different owners. One has one set of plats, one has the other. They could go in anytime, and one may never get recorded. So, you know, we can't make them do that. We can only recommend they do that.
But if 2B never goes in, and 2A does, that's gonna be a weird lot.
Once they leave our office, we don't record plats. I mean, we can't make people record them. I think Bruce is perfectly correct with, even in the number, but
Can you not, hold 2A until you know, till they prove that 2B is recorded?
we can, but they can walk out of our office and record them in any order they want.
I mean, don't give it to them until till 2B is recorded.
I don't know that we can do that. I don't know if we have jurisdiction to do that.
Well, you don't have to sign it until they do.
Could we approve 2B and not 2A, does that come on?
No, I mean, we'll try to get it done in that order.
So the property that's being used for commercial is 1R?
Yes. But they're not expanding the non-conforming use according to Mr. Cooper's statement.
Any further comments? Do I have a motion? We have a motion. Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second to approve the Cooper Freeman Lang property.
Was the
Commissioner
motion
McCullough.
to request 2B to record it first? Yes. Okay.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the replat of lots 1 and 2 of the Randy Freeman property and a lot line adjustment between Randy Freeman and Gary Lang. That includes a recommendation that miscellaneous request 2B be recorded prior to miscellaneous request 2A. Did I state that, Bruce, Jerry? Okay. All right, I had a motion, and who was the second? Geneva. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Any long-range planning reports?
No, sir.
All right. Do we have any public input on items not on the agenda? I see some hands out there. We are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.